And how we doing, everybody? My name is Ryan B. Hebert, and today I am commentating alongside.
Owen Wright, also known as Eclipse Owl VGC online. So we have a
Dude, how
really
we doing?
pretty good. We have a very exciting match here. Calvonix and JonoTV. I'm really looking forward to this. I see creative teams on both sides, which should be pretty cool. We have the Kangaskhan, Tornadus, Kyogre, Xerneas, Amoonguss, and Incineroar on Calvonix's side, but with another really weird team of the Xerneas, Lunala, Kangaskhan, Incineroar, Tapu Koko, Nihilego on Jono's side. I'm really excited to see how this plays out.
I recognize a lot on Calvonix's side of the field. The Xerneas Ogre lead is something familiar from the earlier formats of 2019, but something very popular for the Ultra format is this Kangaskhan Tornadus pairing. Alongside an Amoonguss for redirection and Incineroar for fake out usage, it's a powerful combination with Xerneas' Geomancy alongside a possible Primal Kyogre. I wouldn't say that there's any other reason for there to be Scarf on this sort of team, but you just never know. And then you're right, Eclipse. Looking at Jonah's team, Jonah is a very creative team builder, and so looking at what he's able to create and what he's able to do, Kangaskhan on what's usually known as Space X, Lunala, and Xerneas, with the combination of Coco, Incineroar, and then Nihilego, usually a Pokemon seen on most X-ray teams as well.
Yes, and I mean, another thing that I like to point out is with that Kangaskhan Tornadus lead, it makes leading the Lunala on Jono's side very difficult. With the combination of an Icy Wind Bite, can just delete Lunala from the field before it's able to do anything. And just
Mm-hmm.
like that, we're going to be starting with the Nihilego Xerneas lead from Jono and the Amoonguss Xerneas from Calvonix. This is definitely, I think they had similar ideas going into this, but I would be cautious because Nihilego does not have the redirection that Amoonguss does here. And since it's not a grass type or anything, it can't ignore Rage Powder. So Amoonguss is pretty much free just to Rage Powder and Xerneas Geo on Calvonix's side, and there's little to nothing that Jono can do here.
Well, I wouldn't count Jono out. That's the thing. Nihilego has access to powerful Z moves such as Rocky MZ and even an Acid Downpour. But you're right. The Amoonguss here, I think, has the greater momentum for just the starting turn. Being able to redirect, making sure that if anything is coming out of Nihilego, it's not going into Calvonix's Xerneas. And we're actually going to see Sludge Bomb coming out, no redirection whatsoever. Geomancy going up on Calvonix's side of the field, and Geomancy going up on Jono's side of the field. And
Um,
Spore coming out from the Amoonguss onto Jono's side.
yeah. Definitely a very risky play from Galvanix there, but I would like to think that it probably did pay off there. Because now he does have this Geodzernius not being threatened by Jonos whatsoever. With that added chip, that does put it at range for most attacks, even though it is boosted on that special defense stat.
Interesting to note that Jonas decided to use Sludge Bomb twice in a row here. So I'm curious to know what the item is on that Nihilego. I'd almost guess maybe it's even choice specs. It might be a little bit of a far reach, but if he's going for the same move twice in a row, especially if Amoonguss can possibly redirect, which it just did, I'd be curious to know what the item is. And at this point, going for that sleep turn one was just so genius because now you're able to just take advantage of unleashing powerful damage with your Xerneas.
Yep. There is one slight problem here for Calvanix, and that is the fact that his Xerneas is so dangerously low from that first Sludge Bomb. So if Jono can get a turn 2 Wake Up Hero on his Xerneas and get a Declaim out, that'll be enough damage that he can kill his Xerneas, but he crits his own Dazzling Gleam, KOing Jono's Xerneas. That is absolutely huge.
Ah, such a beautiful thing to see. And a protect on Amoonguss as well. Not a usual common move because, well, I have to say that the four moves that most Amoonguss know are Spore, Rage Powder, Grass Knot, and Clear Smog. So he's had to drop one of those moves to put protect on this Amoonguss, which does come into play here and it pays off quite nicely.
Yeah, and I would like to see what other moves he does have, because usually the Rage Powder, the Clear Smog, Spore, those are the ones we see. But so far, we've only seen Spore, Rage Powder, Protect. He probably does have Clear Smog in the back, but if he has something else like a Grass Knot or something, that can hit the Kangaskhan for a bit more damage if Xerneas is taken out.
Sludge Bomb and Fake Out going into what was the Amoonguss slot, going into that Kangaskhan. Incineroar switching in here, intimidating the Kangaskhan and that's opposing Xerneas. Fake Out from Kangaskhan going into the Nihilego, and that Incineroar taking that Moonblast quite nicely.
Nicely.
Figure Berry being eaten as well.
Yep. This is definitely a much nicer spot for Jonah to be in than he was in the beginning of the game with that sleeping Xerneas. He does have the fake out pressure. Nihilego is pretty much able to hit either Pokemon without being threatened by too much damage here. Uh, and there's also the potential for like a roar or something if he predicts the protect on Xerneas, getting rid of those stat boosts altogether.
Mhm. You know, I'm curious to see if a Dazzling Gleam would be enough to knock out the Incineroar, seeing how much damage the Moonblast was able to do into Incineroar. And so at this point, you've got to be curious about what exactly Calvonix wants to do. And Amoonguss is going to swap in. Kangaskhan is going to swap in for the Incineroar. Kangaskhan being knocked out in one hit with that powerful Moonblast. And Sledge Bomb coming out from that Nihilego once again, going into
Yep.
that opposing Amoonguss.
I mean, you can definitely see how scared he was of that protect that turn, losing his Incineroar to something else from the Kangaskhan. And I understand why he made that play, but that does put him in a very interesting spot where he doesn't have the kind of pressure that he wanted to the last turn with the Amoonguss into redirect. But he just goes for the fake out into the Xerneas like normal, and he does end up sludge bombing the Amoonguss slot, switching out into the Kangaskhan, picking up the knockout there.
Mhm. We do see that +1 from Nihilego's Beast Boost ability, which will come into handy later on. A Sludge Bomb going into that Xerneas. Xerneas targeting down Incineroar, knocking it out, and now Jonah left down to his final Pokemon and a Primal Kyogre coming onto the field. Jonah gives the GG. That is game 1.
Yeah, that it is, and I think that was really brilliantly played from Calvonix, just leaving his Kyogre in the back there, knowing that as once he knew that he didn't have the Tapu Koko on Jono's side, once he got rid of that boosted Xerneas, there was barely anything that could really deal with it well, with the combination of the redirection from Amoonguss. I'm really interested to see if Jono will adapt, bring the Tapu Koko here just to make sure that the Spore doesn't play as much of a factor as it did in the early game, and the Kyogre isn't as safe in the late game.
The nice thing about Kangaskhan, especially on Calvonix's side of the field, is that if he chose to go scrappy Kangaskhan, it means that his fake out can hit the Lunala. And so Jono is really pressured here with two different types of fake out, not to mention speed control from that Tornadus. And we just saw the power of Amoonguss and the fact that its regenerator ability is just so helpful for battles like this where you want to swap in and out and be able to regain health as it does with regenerator. And it overall, I mean, bringing the Lunala and Coco, I think, would be a great way to try to improve your matchup. But at the same time, Kangaskhan is just so helpful with the fact that it can hit ghost types with that fake out. I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing.
Yeah, and we do see a lot of them running back speed now, not as much of a bulkier variant. It's not living as much, but it does outspeed Lunala, and with the ability to bite, hit with that super effective dark type attack, with the fake out chip from its scrappy fake out, then mega evolving and using bite, that Lunala just doesn't get to do anything all game.
I did notice we didn't see a choice item from that Nihilego. I had made a guess because he kept using Sledge Bomb again and again and again. He did eventually use Protect, so I just wanted to make that note. And we're going to see the Kyogre and Mungus lead versus the Nihilego Tapu Koko lead.
Yep.
Very interesting start. Let's talk about this for a moment, shall we?
Yes. I mean, this is definitely a really great adaptation from Calvonix, noticing that he didn't want to really be in that same spot where if Jono went for a different lead, try to counter his Amoonguss Xerneas lead, this gives him a lot of offensive pressure right out of the gate, as Tapu Koko can't really hit Kyogre since that Amoonguss does have Rage Powder. But he goes for the
Mm.
Electro Rub, the spread electric type move, doing super effective damage. Not too much, but it's enough that is slowing that Kyogre down, allowing that Nihilego to go first, even though I probably was going to already.
That
Um,
Tapu Koko comfortably taking that Origin Pulse in the rain too makes me just wonder how much investment that Tapu Koko may have.
You know, and based off the use of Electro, I would almost 100% say that that is an Assault Vest Tapu Koko with the
Hmm.
combination of the damage from the Origin Pulse and the move choice there. So that does lead the question: does he have the option for maybe Skydrop to Skydrop the Amoonguss, get that redirection out of there? But instead, he just goes for the Nature's Madness Sludge Bomb into the Amoonguss, as Origin Pulse knocks out Tapu Koko, but procs the sash on the Nihilego.
Unfortunate, and actually kind of a dangerous play, if I might say. What if the Amoonguss had decided to go for a Protect and he tried to go for the Sky Drop? The Kyogre would have still been able to go for the Origin Pulse as well. So Jonah trying to do his best here, but redirection with Amoonguss with a Kyogre, I mean, you've just knocked out one of the main tools to try to knock out a Primal Kyogre on your opponent's side of the field.
Yep, and definitely. And the thing here is that he brings in Xerneas, which once it gets set up, great amount of offensive pressure can deal with that Kyogre very well. But the Amoonguss is still there, and we saw how much damage that Sludge Bomb did, roughly like 30%. That's not enough to pick up Amoonguss to prevent it from going for a Clear Smog to get rid of those stat changes. Xerneas does decide to Geomancy. This is a very dangerous spot for Jonah.
Yeah. And at least the electric terrain is up, so Spore isn't an issue. But the bigger issue on the field is that Primal Kyogre's here, and it's here to stay. Now, I know Nihilego does have access to roleplay, but without Groudon or something like that on the field, Jonah doesn't really have access to controlling the weather. And we're going to see Origin Pulse missing on that Nihilego, but going into that Xerneas Clear Smog being revealed on that
Yep.
Amoonguss as the final move. And here we are back at square one, but with a little
Yep.
bit less health on Xerneas.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that did come out of that exchange is Nihilego is still around, and this is probably range that Nihilego can pick up a Moongus with a Sludge Bomb. Could Jono go for the read, say he's going to protect or switch out his Amoonguss, try to preserve it, but instead, no, he just goes for the Rage Powder. Uh, Nihilego picking up the KO, Moonblast goes into Kyogre, and Origin Pulse KOs both the Xerneas and the Nihilego, leaving Jono down to his last Pokemon.
Jonah, given the GG already, one Pokemon left, but Calvonix apologizing about the RNG. I'm a little unaware though of said RNG. I'm just trying to go back here and see what exactly that was.
It might have been missing Origin Pulse, keeping that Nihilego around. Maybe he wanted that switch into something else, but
Oh, I
also
see.
the critical hit game 1, that could
Okay.
definitely be it as well. So we see the
Yeah.
Kangaskhan is the last Pokemon on Jono's side. There's not really much it can do, especially since there is that 4th Pokemon still in the back on Calvonix's side.
If there's anything to take away from these two games, is that if you don't have some type of way to control the weather against a team like Calvonix's, you're going to really be in a bad spot, especially against two different fake out users that are also one of them being able to hit ghost types. We see Thunder and Fake Out from Kangaskhan
Uh,
and Prama
Kang
Kyogre.
Yep. Kangaskhan's living with 1 HP, but that's not gonna do much, as even if it does pick up a knockout here, it's not gonna end up winning the game. We see the low kick, very interesting move choice there, still not KOing the Kangaskhan. And that is game, and Calvonix moves on to the top 4 of the Mount Silver Circuit Invitational.
A couple solid games from both of these players. I think, while looking at these matchups, being able to redirect, have Tailwind, and taunt access with Tornadoes, two types of different fake out users, especially being able to hit ghost types if that is a scrappy Kangaskhan paired with Primal Kyogre and then a Xerneas. You're really working with fire, so to speak, but in fact, it's just rain. While on Jonah's side of the field, we never really got to see what that Lunala was capable of, and I think that's probably due to the fact that you've got a Kangaskhan and you've got an Incineroar to probably deal with a threat like Lunala. So well played by Calvonix.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we will come back with the next set of our top 8.